to FuturePrint TV. I'm Marcus Timpson, and I'm joined today with and by Graham Kennedy, who is the Director of Industrial Print Ricoh Europe. Welcome, Graham.
Thanks, Marcus.
We're both at the Imprint show and CCE show in Munich, and I'm just caught up with Graham really to find out sort of what he expects to see from the show and what developments are taking place at Ricoh. So, Graham, this is obviously we've just arrived, so it's difficult to form an impression, but this is the first live event or live exhibition I think any of us have been to in quite some time. What do you perhaps hope to see here, or?
Well, I think first of all, I'm really excited to be back on the road and in an exhibition hall, where everyone's looking to talk to each other. It's my first time back in Munich for 2 years. Typically, I was here every month, so it's been a big miss from my calendar. So really delighted to be back at live events. But I think from an industrial perspective, as a supplier into the industry, you tend to have to be an expert in multiple different applications, and I think having Imprint aligned to a show like CCE is really useful for a supplier like Ricoh to educate ourselves on new markets, because we can't be experts on everything. So to come here with shows that are aligned in this way is a really useful way for self-education, whilst at the same time having the opportunity to talk to new prospective customers about the technologies and the offerings that we can supply to their industry.
Right. So obviously the last 2 years we've been starved of live events, but am I right in thinking it's actually been a very innovative time for people like Ricoh, and in particular looking at the packaging industry? It's continued to experience high demand, but a lot of change. How have you perhaps developed? What kind of products have you developed, or ideas have you developed over that?
I think the innovation has been more on the customer side, because their R&D teams have had more time in the lab to advance their developments. They haven't had perhaps the normal level of distractions under normal business circumstances that they might have had. So the development times have shortened, and products are coming to market in a much faster timescale. So for Ricoh, it's been a demand on our support infrastructure to make sure that we've had the right levels of resources to support all of those activities that have been ongoing over the last 2 years.
And obviously it's been topical in the news is supply chain challenges. Is that something you've seen? And is digitalisation starting to become more of a normality for the kind of inquiries you might be getting, or the ideas that you might be developing?
Yeah, I think industrial printing, we have got a very fragmented supply chain anyway, and in multiple different sectors we see the impacts of over-reliance on Asia, for materials and components. From a product perspective, I think personalisation, yes, absolutely, does drive a lot of the developments in that area. So rather than developing products that are bigger, better, faster, it's about developing products that are smaller, more cost-effective, that deliver real benefits to the users. And personalisation is one of those key factors.
We've talked before, and I think you've said the kind of things that you're seeing is that there's this sort of higher demand for agility in production. Is that something you see in the corrugated industry? Because obviously we're aligned with the CCE event here. Is that something you're seeing there? How have you seen
I think that the corrugated industry is relatively new to us. So we have been learning, educating ourselves about some of the driving factors. And what I see is pressure from consumers being pushed onto brand owners putting the pressure onto their printers, and then the printer putting the pressure onto the machine maker for various different reasons. They could be looking for upstream efficiencies, or they could be looking for downstream benefits. Upstream efficiencies in process, and downstream benefits in versioning and personalisation.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess another key kind of pillar for change is the push for more sustainable production. Is that something that's always been a part of Ricoh, hasn't it? Is that really even more impetus on that now for
Yeah, absolutely. Sustainability is really at at Ricoh's core. So it's something that's really important to us. And I come back to the pressures that consumers put on brands as well. Consumers increasingly putting pressure on brands to be more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and we have seen a push in corrugated and packaging over the last years to be more sustainable, whether that be with water-based inks, less ink, or different ink types, such as the plant-based ink that Ricoh brought to market in the last few months.
And just I know you've talked before about plant-based. Give us a very small snapshot as to the benefits of that particular innovation. It sounds absolutely sustainable, more so than any other type of ink I've heard of.
Yeah, I think plant-based ink is something that we're really keen to push into the market to ensure people know more about. So of course. Using soy oil as the carrier, is sustainable in itself. But when you're using that onto porous substrates like corrugated or brown board, the fixation is much easier. So it doesn't need drying. So all of that drying energy doesn't need to be consumed. You don't need to invest in a dryer from a cost or a footprint perspective. And then not using that energy means there's less CO2 emissions as well. So there are lots of sustainable and environmental impacts of plant-based ink.
Yeah, it's sustainable. It sounds it's got some unique properties that make the whole production much more efficient as well, which is quite interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's something that we're really excited to be talking to people here at this show about over the next couple of days.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, Graham. It's really good to catch up
pleasure.
in person at the show. So have a great event, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.